What's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. Thanks for stopping by. If you are new here, my name is James and I like to talk about web development. Today's going to be a little bit of a different kind of video. Today I'm going to be talking about Etch, which isn't so different. I do that quite a bit, but today's video is actually going to be basically my review of Etch. So I've been using it for, I don't even know. I don't think it's been a year yet, but it has been a while, quite a few months. I was able to get in on it early, as you may or may not know. There were some pretty good deals on Etch for early adopters. I didn't get in on the very, very beginning. There were some people who actually purchased it before Etch even existed. I was not one of those people. I had to at least see it in action a little bit first. I watched a couple videos of Kevin using it, and I decided to buy it. So got a pretty good deal on it. I'm very happy with the deal that I got, very happy with the product. No complaints in that regard at all. And I'm going to be talking about basically my review of Etch. Kevin, in one of his live videos recently, sort of put out a call to people looking for reviews. He basically was like, hey, we love getting reviews. They're very helpful. And he said something to the effect of like, if, video reviews are the best. They really like video reviews. So that's what I'm going to do. I figured, hey, I also have a YouTube channel. So if I'm going to record something, I might as well put it up on YouTube, right? So basically, there's going to be two sort of parts to this video. I'm going to start by kind of talking about my background, sort of like how I came into even using Etch in the first place, what I was doing before Etch. So be able to compare a little bit, like what am I even comparing Etch to at this point, right? Because everybody using Etch has come into Etch from somewhere. There, a lot of people were using something like Elementor. Some people were just building things from scratch, just entire WordPress websites in VS Code. Some people were using the block editor, right? All sorts of different things. Some people might have even come to WordPress from non-WordPress because maybe they saw what Kevin was doing and they've never really wanted to use WordPress for this reason or that. And then maybe they saw Etch and thought, oh, okay, I actually could use WordPress. Who knows? There's all sorts of different places people are coming from before Etch. So I'm going to talk about me, where I came from, what I'm comparing Etch to. And then I'm going to talk about Etch and why I like it. What specific parts about Etch do I like? And if you're looking for, like, I'll just tell you right now, 5 stars. If you're looking for some sort of rating, 10 out of 10, 5 stars, A+, whatever. I love Etch. Is it perfect? No, it's not even done yet. So, I feel comfortable giving it a 5-star rating, even though it's not done yet, just because how good it is after only existing for like a year. And even when I first started using it months and months ago, the things that you were able to do with it after a few months of development were pretty impressive. So absolutely 5 stars. And they've been adding, just almost weekly, just update after update, features, bug fixes, whatever, quality of life updates, just tons of stuff. So yeah, super excited. I love the product. Let's get into the actual video. So where am I even coming from? I'm a guy who, I'm going to say it, I'm 41 years old. And I've been doing this for kind of a long time, not as long as some people. I technically started, I built my first website when I was 12. My first website being the Dragon Ball Z fan page. In fact, that baby is still live. Pull it up. It is live on, this is going to hit a lot of people right in the lower back. This is live on Angelfire.com. Okay. Look at that. I built this when I was 12. It's just straight up HTML. There's no CSS. I didn't even know what CSS was at the time. I had a friend who could build websites and I thought he was just a mad genius. I was like, how does a middle schooler build a website? And he was like, bro, just right click on a website, click on view source, and that's how websites are built. And back then, websites were pretty simple. You could actually do that. You could just look at the source code and just teach yourself how HTML worked, at least. And that's what I did. Learned how to use HTML. Found this amazing picture somewhere on the internet. I mean, this was before Google, you guys. I must have asked Jeeves this thing. It's a picture of the Spice Girls holding the Dragon Balls. I mean, you see a picture like this, and you basically have to build a website around it, right? You don't really have a choice at that point. It's literally just a gallery of pictures. Finding a GIF like this of all these characters took probably months. Some pictures don't even work. I don't even know why a picture wouldn't work, like it's uploaded. But that's it. This is the first website that I ever built a very, very, very long time ago. And by some miracle, it's still live on Angelfire, covered in ads, of course. But so I've always felt like, I don't even know if I want to say this. For many years, I felt very smart because nobody else my age could build a website, even if it's not, even if this is what I did, nobody else could do that. Even into my teens, early 20s, nobody else that I knew could build a website. And I built, several other dumb websites and played around with stuff. And I built websites with frames, not iframes, but actual frames, that was fun times. And it wasn't until, I never did anything professionally with it. It was just a fun hobby. It wasn't until probably my late 20s where I realized that I actually don't know anything. I realized that CSS, this thing that I heard about in high school, I took a couple web development classes in high school, and I just I was like, oh, I don't need CSS. I can do all that stuff right in the HTML. Why would I use CSS to change the color of the font when I can do that in HTML? So I basically ignored CSS for a long time, and then it occurred to me finally that you really need to know CSS. You can't be a web developer without CSS. It's just not possible. Didn't know anything about JavaScript for sure. Like, if I thought I didn't know anything about CSS, I surely didn't know anything about JavaScript. But so I taught myself CSS. I found a free course on like Code Academy or something, learning CSS. And then I heard about this thing called WordPress that people were using to build websites. And so I poked around with it, and I hated it. I did not understand it. It was about all I could do to figure out how to even get a WordPress website live. I honestly don't even remember how I did it. I think I probably got like a GoDaddy hosting plan and installed WordPress on it. Because, this was back before it was basically one click everywhere. I hated it. I didn't understand it. I didn't understand how databases worked. I didn't understand what a CMS was. I didn't know what a dynamic website was. I didn't understand this whole templating thing. I created a page in WordPress, and then I was looking in the files, and I was trying to find that HTML file. Couldn't find it. And I was like, oh, everything's PHP. Okay, there must be a PHP file. Couldn't find it. Like, I made it a page called About Us, and then I was looking for like aboutus.php or something. Obviously, I couldn't find it because that's not how it works. I just didn't understand, and I hated it. I looked at the index.php file, and there was like 10 lines of code in it, and I was like, what kind of witchcraft is this? How is there a full-blown website? Because I understood the index file was like the main file you looked at when you went to a website, right? The index.html. That's how I built websites. So I expected there to be a whole bunch of code in the index.php file. And I just looked at it and I thought, this is dumb. I don't like it. I don't understand it. I also didn't fully understand how, I would install a theme and then my website wouldn't look anything like the demo that I saw when I found that theme. Just didn't understand how to do anything really. I mean, and to be honest, I don't even know how or why I ended up learning WordPress. I think I just eventually, because this was a while ago, I think I eventually just told myself, look, everybody loves WordPress, so the problem is obviously me. It's not WordPress. It's got to be me. There's something about me. And I think I just eventually just kept poking around with it and learned a little bit here and there. And of course now, 41 years old. I'm all in on WordPress. It's all I use. I don't build websites from scratch. I mean, who does that? I know a little bit about things like Node, and NPM, and I played a little bit with React, making blocks and whatnot, but I'm not building websites for clients like that. If I'm building a website, it's going to be in WordPress. So I definitely flipped. I went from hating WordPress to I'm all in on WordPress. It's all I use. I'm not out there using Wix. I'm not out there using Webflow, right? It's WordPress. So that's kind of where I'm at. And I got a job working for some small agency, and they used Themify to build other websites. If you don't know what Themify is, it's like a competitor to Elementor. It's another Elementor Divi sort of page builder, right? Completely proprietary. It's absolutely not, it's not like Ollie or Cadence where it leans into the Gutenberg block editor. It's just like Elementor. It's an absolute alternative to the block editor, right? And I used that for many, many years, and I liked it. I mean, as far as page builders go, I liked it. And I spent a lot of time learning how to use Themify. I don't really like Elementor, and I don't like Divi. A lot of that is just because I'm so used to Themify. I think I prefer that, but that's where I'm at. So that's, for years I did that for that company, and then also when I stopped working for that company, I was using Themify for all my websites. I was using Themify for all my client websites, and yeah. So then, about a year ago, I was honestly starting to consider leaving WordPress. My friend had already left WordPress. He left WordPress so long ago. He's been using something called October CMS for the past 2 years, and then he just recently switched to Statamic. He's been trying to get me to switch to Statamic. And I was thinking about it. I was actually considering it. And then one day I came across Kevin Geary on Twitter. He was saying some things. It was actually, I think, a little more than a year ago, because I believe I was still working for Liquid Web, and I was still kind of drinking the WordPress Kool-Aid at that time. The WordPress Kool-Aid is what people are drinking when they are just so convinced that WordPress is this super intuitive, easy to use. Anybody can do it. Anybody's mom could just fire up a computer and get on WordPress and build themselves a really good WordPress website. None of that is true. And anybody who doesn't have their head, 6 inches up Matt Mullenweg's ass knows that nothing I just said is true. WordPress is very powerful. It is incredibly powerful. You can do tons of stuff with WordPress. You can basically do anything with WordPress if you know what you're doing. It is not a DIY friendly tool. It's just not. I will die on that hill 1,000 times. And so, but I still kind of was there. And I think part of that is because I worked for a company who built plugins for WordPress. And, when you're building a plugin for WordPress, when you're building any piece of software, you're trying to make it easy to use. You're trying to make it user friendly. I mean, nobody tries to make a piece of software that's user unfriendly, right? You're trying to make a software that's user friendly. And so I think after a while, you sort of convince yourself that, yeah, this product is really user friendly. And then your marketing team wants to say things like, oh, it's so user friendly. Anybody can do it. An absolute newbie could do it. And that's what we told people. Absolute newbie could use the events calendar to create a whole events website. Oh, an absolute newbie could use LearnDash to make their own course and teach people how to do whatever it is that they do. Right? So we kind of have to think that, because if we want to think that if we want to think that LearnDash is so easy that a noob can use it, well, WordPress has to be that easy too, right? Because if WordPress isn't easy to use, well, then our plugin that sits on top of WordPress isn't going to be easy to use. So we kind of have to think that. And I started to see some things that Kevin Geary was posting on Twitter, and I was like, what is this guy talking about? And I didn't like what he was saying at first. And I didn't like him. And I started eventually I started to realize, like, wow, I don't like what he's saying, but I can't say why. I can't come up with a counter argument to anything that he's saying. And so just the more I thought about it and the more I was paying attention to him on Twitter and watching some of his live streams, eventually it just sort of like, I don't know, it was like a burden was just lifted off my shoulders. I was like, you know what? WordPress really isn't all that easy to use. It's just not. It's not, at least it's not as easy to use as some people would think. I feel like it's easy to use because I've been using it for over a decade or whatever. But I remember one time I was going to try to create a course. It was going to be a course, basically a WordPress for Dummies type course. And the more I was looking into that course and trying to come up with the lesson plan and whatnot, I just started to put myself in the shoes of a newbie, of a person who's not super tech savvy. And I just realized, man, this is, it's too much. It's too much for a random person who they just opened a bakery and they want a website to let people know where the bakery is, what their hours are, what things they bake, things like that. Just a simple website. I thought, man, that person is not going to enjoy themselves if they try to use WordPress. That person is 1,000 times better off using Wix or Squarespace. If they're trying to sell stuff, they're going to be better off using Shopify than trying to set up a WordPress website and installing WooCommerce and that whole mess. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So that's how I kind of got into Kevin Geary's content. I still hadn't ever used automatic CSS. I hadn't used Framer. He hadn't even created Etch yet. But I was just consuming some of his content. And my mind was starting to change a little bit about WordPress. I'm obviously still all in on WordPress, but I'm not looking at WordPress through these rose colored glasses or whatever. I feel like I'm a lot more, I don't know, I'm more of a realist. Like I understand what's good about WordPress. I also understand what's not so great about WordPress. And it's all about, just like anything, it's all about what am I willing to put up with? Are the good things about WordPress good enough that I can put up with the bad things? In my opinion, yes. If I was a brand new, if I was not very tech savvy, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I would be jumping on, Wix or Squarespace, whatever. So anyways, that's where I was at, considering possibly leaving WordPress altogether for Statamic. Was using Themify, was getting kind of tired of Themify, to be honest. Was starting to listen to some of Kevin Geary's content about how websites should actually be built and some of the drawbacks to things like Elementor, Themify, Divi, et cetera, the block editor. And I was just like, man, I think he's right. And I don't know what the solution is. It's too difficult to build a WordPress website properly, in a way that's maintainable, scalable, et cetera. There's a lot of people who will tell you they can do that with the block editor. I mean, there's various degrees of maintainability and scalability. And it's also, what are you willing to put up with? Because any website can be maintained. It's just that some websites take more effort to maintain than others. So you might think that you're building a super maintainable website with the block editor because you're very familiar with the block editor and you understand exactly what needs to be done to maintain the website. But if you hand that website off to someone else who's only somewhat familiar with the block editor, that could be a problem. And they might end up doing things that don't make any sense versus a website that's built, And so that's the thing. If you build a website with the block editor, you almost have to hand it over to somebody who's also very experienced with the block editor. Just like if you build a website in Elementor and somebody takes over the website who's not familiar with Elementor, it's going to be a pain in the ass for them to try to maintain that website. If a website is built properly with actual best practices, web development, objective web development best practices, and you hand that website over to somebody who understands proper, objective web development standards, that website is easy to maintain by someone who did not build it. And so I was just sort of getting to the point where I wanted that control. I didn't feel like I was good enough to be building websites completely from scratch, because that's kind of the only option. If you really want to try to build a website and you want to make sure it's built properly with all the best web development best practices you possibly can know, you're basically going to be building it from scratch. You're going to be building your own theme completely from scratch, building out all your own templates, et cetera, because you're just going to be fighting. If you're going to try to do that with the block editor, you're going to be fighting too much. If you're trying to do it with the Elementor, you're going to be fighting too much. You're going to have to be conceding too many things. So that's kind of you either go one way, which is like, forget best practices. I'm just going to build a website however Elementor thinks I should build a website. Or I want to go all in on best practices, which means I have to open up VS Code and code the whole thing from scratch, which means I got to learn PHP. And that was it. And I thought, if I'm going to do that, if I'm going to go the route of just building everything from scratch, I might as well leave WordPress, which is just archaic, and use something that's more modern and new and fresh, that has more modern best practices in mind, aka Statamic. So that's why I was considering Statamic, because I was just to the point where I was ready to dump Themify and the whole page building experience, and I was going to jump into trying to learn. I hope you can't hear my kids screaming upstairs. I wish they would shut up. Hopefully Auphonic removes that when I throw this video through Auphonic later. I was getting ready to dump Themify and jump in on the basically building from scratch. And if I'm going to do that, I want to do it with a more modern tool. So that's why I was thinking about Statamic. And then enters Kevin Geary talking about Etch and how it's going to be this whole new, just an entirely new development environment for WordPress. And I started to, I was watching his videos when he actually, because I heard about it before he ever created Etch. I heard him talking about Etch, and he didn't tell us what it was. And then he told us it was going to be like a development environment for WordPress, but we still didn't, no screenshots or anything, no videos. So I'm like basically sitting there like, okay, hurry up. Like I want to know what this thing actually is. Because if it's not amazing, I'm going to probably jump ship and go try Statamic. Finally, they write some code. And he starts doing some live streams where he's building stuff in Etch. And I'm looking at this, I'm just going, this is it. This is what I want. This is how I want to build a website. To me, Etch was the perfect sort of meet in the middle between, like I said before, just the page building experience where your best practices are out the window. You're just doing whatever weird proprietary stuff Elementor came up with, Themify, Divi, the block editor, whatever weird stuff they're coming up with. You're just doing that versus building a whole website completely from scratch. Just get out of WordPress, open up VS Code, and just build all your templates and everything from scratch. Etch was like the perfect marriage of those two sort of concepts where you're still in WordPress. You don't need to leave WordPress. You don't need to open up VS Code. You're still in WordPress, but you also have full access to your code. At the moment, when I say code, I'm referring to HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. You don't really need access to the PHP to build a website in this way, although you will be able to like write some custom PHP at some point in the future. I don't know how much I'll use that, but I know a lot of people are kind of clamoring for it. So, but you have full access to the HTML, the CSS, and the JavaScript, those are the three languages I have the most experience with. I don't have a ton of experience with PHP. It's why I was kind of like, do I really want to, go that route and just custom build everything? So I'd like to tell people it's like Dreamweaver for WordPress. I don't know how Kevin feels about that, but I'm also not the only person who said that. I've seen other people say that. And if you remember Dreamweaver, if you're old as dirt like I am, Dreamweaver was basically like you had, it looked kind of like Etch. You had a place on the bottom where you could put code, and then on the top was a preview. So you could see in real time what you're doing. You type some code and it would pop up, if it wasn't broken on the top. And that was a really kind of, I don't know if I want to call it like innovative. I guess it was pretty innovative. Um, it obviously got very popular. Everybody was using Dreamweaver to build websites. There's some other things that were similar to it. Microsoft Front Page had their builder, and Adobe had Go Live was their thing. I actually liked Go Live too, but Dreamweaver was kind of like the king. Everybody was using it. And that's how I feel about Etch. It's kind of like Dreamweaver for WordPress. So there are UI elements you can use. For instance, when you're adding a div to the page, you don't have to go to the HTML panel and type div, although you can. It also supports Emmet, so you could just type dot class name, hit tab, and it will create a div with that class name. But you can also just click the div button and it adds a div to the page. And then right there you have your CSS panel. And you can add CSS. There's also some handy little buttons in the CSS panel that you can use if you want to do some common CSS things. But regardless of what you do, you always have access, easy access. You don't have to click around to find it. It's right there. HTML, CSS, JavaScript, boom. And so it sort of feeds my ego also. Themify always made me feel, honestly, not good. I always was a little bit embarrassed to say that I used Themify. I didn't even like to call myself a web developer. I felt like I was just a web builder. I was a website putter togetherer. I wasn't developing anything. And so I was a little embarrassed, honestly, to use Themify. And with Etch, I actually feel a lot more empowered. I know that's kind of a cheesy thing to say. It's very cliche these days, but that's how I feel. I feel empowered. I feel like I'm actually interested in learning CSS again. For a long time, I wasn't that interested in it because I didn't use it very much. I would use it a lot of times in Themify to try to tweak things that I couldn't get to look exactly the way I wanted. But for the most part, I wasn't super interested in CSS because I was mostly building with the builder. And so now all of a sudden I'm using Etch. I'm super interested. I'm watching all of Kevin Geary's videos. I'm watching Kevin Powell's videos, and I'm actually learning about CSS again and some of the new features that have been added and some new things that are coming. And it's fun and it's interesting. And yeah, so that's where I'm at. Etch literally kept me in the land of WordPress. I honestly think, especially at this point, it's been a while. I think by now I would be learning Statamic already, especially since I have my super smart friend who already left WordPress and has been using Statamic and loves it, and he wants me to switch to it. He would be able to teach me and answer any questions I have. I could very easily get into Statamic right now if I wanted to. It'd be very easy, and I think I would have if it wasn't for Etch. So, yeah, I want to show you. I'm just going to kind of show you. This is not going to be an Etch tutorial by any means. Fun fact, I am working on Etch 101 course. It won't be like Kevin's page builder course where he's actually teaching the fundamentals of web design and web development and how to actually build websites. My course is literally just going to be, how do you use Etch? Where are all the Etch features? What can Etch do? What can Etch not do? That is coming, but that's not what this is going to be. I just kind of want to poke around Etch a little bit so you can kind of see maybe some of the things I've said up to this point didn't make a lot of sense to you, but this is an Etch review. So I kind of want to show you some things that I like about Etch so you can actually see them and not just try to have to imagine what I'm talking about in my head. So Etch is literally just a plugin. You install the plugin, put in your license key. It comes with a theme as well, but the theme is just basically an empty full site editor theme. You could technically, I've used Etch with like a regular, like 2025 theme. I don't recommend it. You don't want to do that. It can be done. but don't do that. Just install the theme. It's free. It comes with, when you buy the Etch plugin, you get the Etch theme for free. So do that. And then let's launch Etch. So Etch, as Kevin says, is I'm seriously, if it wasn't 10 degrees outside, I would just kick the kids out and lock the doors. They're driving me bonkers. Etch is a whole, it's not just a page builder, it's a whole development environment. The idea, and they're not quite there yet, but the idea is basically once you launch Etch, you never really need to leave Etch to do anything. The exception to that will be forms. They have decided that building a form framework is more work than what it's worth. And so they're going to instead integrate with other form frameworks. Right now, they've integrated pretty well with WS forms. But everything else, custom post types, custom fields, all that stuff, the idea is that you don't need to leave Etch to do those things. So for example, pages. I'm on the Pages tab. I can go here, New Page. I'm going to say Home and Create Page. Now, in order to make the home page my home page, I still need to go into WordPress settings because WordPress in the year 2025 still thinks it's a blogging platform. So it defaults to your homepage being the blog page for some dumb reason. In my opinion, when you install WordPress, instead of a sample page and a privacy policy page that's in draft mode, there should be a home page. And that home page should be set as the home page. That should just be, because you're not going to convince me that 99.99% of people aren't doing that anyways, right? Anyways, as you see, I just created a page. I didn't need to leave Etch to do that. Now I can go edit the page. Here's the Etch page builder. Of course, it's blank. There's nothing there. I can come down here and add a section. So this is Etch, okay? And one of the first things I like about Etch is the fact that it's modular. So I actually don't like this setup. First of all, I'm going to turn the styling panel off. I'm actually going to turn, well, I'll keep JavaScript here for a second, but I like to have my structure panel on the left. I like to have my CSS on the right, just because I like CSS being tall and cascading. And I'm going to put these settings over here, and I put my JavaScript underneath the CSS, but I turn the JavaScript off until I need it. So I love that about Etch. First of all, that I can turn stuff off so I don't have to have everything on the screen that if I'm not using it, right? I'm not using the style inputs. The style inputs is like Webflow, bricks, okay? And they're getting rid of the style panel anyways, so I don't recommend getting too familiar with it because it's going bye-bye. So I'm just turning it off anyways. I never use it. JavaScript, if I need to add some JavaScript, I'll turn it on. I'll put my JavaScript in, but for the most part, I don't need it. So these are the things that I need. So I love that. It's modular. The other thing I like about it is it's a good mix between UI and typing. So for instance, like I said, down here, it can add a section. I liked it when I added a section, it automatically put a container inside. I mean, you can delete it if you want. If you don't want the container in there, that's fine. You can do all sorts of stuff. If you don't want to delete it up here, you could come down here and just literally delete that code and it disappeared from the style or from the structure panel up here, right? So you have options, right? If you like spending all your time down here in the HTML panel, go for it. If you like being up here, go for it. You can name things, so you can call this hero section and you can have a bunch of stuff in here, like an image, heading, some text, and a link. You can right-click, create BEM classes. Everything now has a class. I didn't have to worry about adding classes. That's just handy. That saved me a lot of time, right? I didn't have to go here and type class, hero section, and then go to the container, class, hero section, __ container, hero section, image, hero section, heading. All that typing that you normally have to do, I didn't have to do it. I named stuff up here. In this case, I just named one thing, the hero section. You can name everything. I just named a hero section, right click, BEM, boom, I have classes. So that's already saved me a bunch of time. I like the fact that everything is bi-directional. Anything I do here syncs up here, and the same goes for the CSS. If I if I background red, right? It's just automatic. It's like Dreamweaver. Everything you do, you get an instant preview of it. I appreciate that. I appreciate the fact that the code on the front end is exactly what I'm seeing here. There's nothing extra. Look at this code. It's literally just section, class, hero section, div, class, hero section, container. Everything has the etch data element, but that's it. There's no extra divs or anything like that. Which you see, like, if you ever look at a Framer website, oh my word, Framer websites are the worst. Elementor sites are bad. Divi sites are bad. Even Gutenberg sites, they like to just wrap things in divs for no reason. Themify does it. With this, you're literally getting what you put into it. Appreciate that, especially when it comes to debugging. And so this, you can see how this really would just empower someone like me who used to feel smart when I was 12 because I could build a website. Then in my 20s, I realized I'm not that smart. So then I'm trying to get smart. I'm learning CSS. I'm learning JavaScript. I get to the point where I'm just like, and then I get lazy and I use the builder. And then the builder makes me feel stupid again. And I feel kind of embarrassed that I'm using a builder and I'm not building websites properly. Then I see something like this and it's just like, this makes me feel like I used to feel when I was young. The difference is now I actually do know stuff. When I was young, I didn't know anything. Now I actually do know stuff and I can learn more stuff. There's all sorts of features I'm not going to get into with this. With Etch, you can create components. You can create legit components that have props and everything. There's conditionals, so you can, add if statements. So you could have a custom field and you could say, if this custom field is this, then display this. If not, display this. All sorts of stuff. You can create templates, right? You got a index template by default, of course, but you can create a template for pages and posts. If you create a custom post type, you will see that here. If I were to go to the content tab, custom post type, click plus, I can create a custom post type right here in Etch. I don't need to leave Etch for that. I don't need to install advanced custom fields for that. I can just do it right here. Now, this isn't super robust yet, so I do still use advanced custom fields. But again, like I said, Etch isn't done yet. They haven't even officially fully released. It's still in beta. So they're still working on some stuff. But you can add a custom post type right here. You can add some custom fields. I think it only supports text fields right now. Again, it's going to be, when they're done with this, you literally will not need advanced custom fields anymore. Etch integrates perfectly with advanced custom fields and Metabox and Jet Engine, I think, and ACPT. It works with all of those plugins that create custom post types and custom fields, and it will eventually have all those features basically right here, so you will not need to leave Etch to do all that stuff. There's the media manager. We got styles. You can create style sheets. You can create a whole bunch of style sheets if you want. You can create variables right here. And then there's a list of every class you created. So these are the classes I created automatically with that BEM feature. They all show up here so I can see what they're doing. Haven't added any styles yet, except for this one. I added background red. This syncs, of course. If I change it here, blue, I go back. Now it's blue. It shows blue up here, right? Let's see here. I'm using an old version of Etch. Let me upgrade and show you another thing I like about Etch, because I've talked a little bit about kind of the perfect mix between UI and having access to code. Come on, show me that you have an update available. Come on, do something. Okay, fine. I'm going to just have to download the newest version. For some reason, it's not. This is another thing I don't like about WordPress. I've noticed this with my plugins that I make. Sometimes I Googled it, I asked AI, and technically it says, oh yeah, all you have to do is whenever you visit the plugins page, it checks for updates. It's like, but does it though? Because the number of times I push an update to a plugin and I've had to sit here and refresh 1,000,000 times and it doesn't see an update. Like, it just drives me bonkers. I hate that. I wish there was a button. Every plugin should have a button you can click on to check for updates. Some plugins do that. You can build that into the plugin. I really appreciate plugins who do that. If you're a plugin developer, you're watching this video, please include that feature on your plugin, just for things like this, where there's an update and WordPress is it's just not happening. So let me upload the newest version of this plugin. I'm like 8 versions behind right now. Okay. Let's edit with Etch. Let's go to content. Let's go to our home page. Click on something. Okay. So if I come down here, enable the quick actions, you'll notice I have a whole bunch of little buttons here. And these are what I was talking about before, just handy little buttons you can click on. If you want to make this display flex row, there, now it's display flex row. Want to make it column? Now it's column. See how it just changed row to column? And let's click on some text. And look how smart it is. It knows now that I'm looking at text, I can do stuff like, mess with the font size, mess with the font weight, the line height. Click on an image. Now I have different options here. I can click on stuff to mess with the image, the things that only apply to images. It's smart. It knows what you're looking at, so it knows what options you should have. And this sort of stuff can really speed up your flow. Because the thing is, building a website properly, there's some people who will tell you that if you're not just typing the whole thing, like if you're not just opening Notepad and just typing the whole thing, you're not doing it properly. That's nonsense. Okay, that's not what I'm saying. It's not what Kevin's saying. It's not what anybody with a brain is saying. The point, building a website properly, has nothing to do with how much you're typing versus how many things you're clicking on. The end result, the code that you get when you click on something is very important. If you click on something and you get the proper code, there's nothing wrong with getting there by clicking on it versus typing. The problem that we have is when you look at things like Webflow or Bricks, the clicking is actually very taxing because you're clicking all over the place trying to find stuff. You're trying to, I need to change the color of this font, so I have to click on typography. Oh, now I want to change the border radius, so I have to go to probably layout. I don't even know. This eliminates that. It's the advantage of clicking without the disadvantage of having to click into different areas and trying to find what you need. It's all right here. It's smart enough to know that since I've selected an image, I might want to add a border radius to the image. I might want to mess with the aspect ratio of this image. I might want to change object fit to cover, right? Is there object fit? I think is contain the default? I don't even know. Display grid, display flex, all these things that normally you have to kind of click around 3-4 clicks to do stuff. It's one click. It's just one click because it knows. And look, now that I added flex direction row, I got even more options. Oh, this is a flex div. Oh, you might want to add justify center or justify end or align start, align center. It's a smart UI that's so much smarter than Themify and Elementor for sure. And it's even smarter than Webflow and Bricks. Webflow and Bricks were kind of like, they were good, right? If you're leaving something like Themify, Elementor, Divi, going into something like Bricks probably felt super refreshing. And that's why Kevin used it for years and did so much content on it. But this is just the next evolution, okay? We got to leave the page builder era for Bricks. Now we're leaving the Bricks era for this. This is just so much faster, and you get proper code. And then, of course, as always, you still have access to the code. So there's going to be things that are just too complex to do by clicking a cute little icon. There's just some things that are going to be too much. So, okay, you can type whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. This proper CSS, you can do it. Custom, you can use AI to copy some big, long custom CSS stuff. Just come over here, paste it right in, right? You have that control. And if you type in something like, see, my options go away, but if I just type display flex, it's still smart enough to now realize this is a flex div. Even though I didn't use their button to make it a flex div, I custom typed it manually. it's still smart enough to go, oh, this is the flex div now. So here's some flex options. Okay. This kind of stuff is why Etch gets 5 stars, 6 out of 5 stars for me, even though it's not done, even though there's still a few things like the content manager I just mentioned. I still need to use advanced custom fields because this isn't quite there yet. Even though there are some things like that going on, I still give this 5 stars because it's just absolutely blown expectations out of the water. Many people are using it for client websites already. I've built 3, I think, client websites with it. So I built several websites for myself with it. It's just good, man. And I'm not even going to get into, well, you know what? I will show you a component. I'm actually going to show you, since I mentioned client websites, here's a pretty simple client website. The design of this is not going to blow anybody's mind, but the website itself, I'm pretty impressed with. If I go to, let's just create a new page just for fun. I'm still used to doing the WordPress way. What am I doing? Let's launch Etch and create a page that way. I'm still trying to get myself, into the new way of doing things. Pages, enter page. We already have a test page, so let's just go there. I'm going to click this. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 components. Now, I'm not using all of these. Some of these I think were just experiments. But let's drop in let's see, which one do I want to try? Heading component. Let's drop that in there. And let's delete that stuff. So here's the heading component, and you'll see I have all these options here. These are custom options. They're called props that I added when I created this component. So the heading is the heading. Here's a lead. Instead of center, let's align it left. And same thing with the text. And the heading, let's make it an H2. Done. And I can move on. So imagine you're building a website, you're building a page, and every section has a heading component to it, right? Sometimes you're going to have a heading with a lead text underneath. Maybe sometimes you don't have a lead text underneath. Okay. If you don't want it, delete it. You could even add a select prop to just that says don't even display the text, the lead text if you want. And there's all sorts of things. If I edit this, there's all sorts of these prop types you can add. Text, Boolean, a select prop. You can add a loop. Loops are a whole thing. You can loop through content very easily in Etch. Obviously the best example of a loop would be the header, the menu. So if I edit this, actually, if I edit the nav component, you'll see that we have a loop, and this is looping through a JSON object. But you could also just loop through custom post types. I'm doing that on, let's pull up one of our templates. Let's pull up our taxonomy. These right here is a loop somewhere. There it is. This is looping through a post type called machine. And it's even using the taxonomy of this particular, because this website has sewing machines, different types of sewing machines, different brands of sewing machines. And so this is using this is an archive, a taxonomy page that whichever taxonomy you're looking at, it's going to use that taxonomy and display machines that fit that taxonomy. This is just a basic WordPress query loop. And that's how this whole page is being built. So if I come to computerized, I see machines that are of type computerized. If I am interested in a Husqvarna Viking, I click on that, and now I see only machines that are Husqvarna Viking. And that's the power of those loops. And of course, I can control what this looks like because it's just HTML and CSS. That's all it is. I have a container, I have a grid. I created a grid with display grid. I created this before we had the fancy CSS buttons. I didn't have those on this website. So I'd typed all this manually myself. Might have used AI for some of it, who knows? But yeah, I mean, it's just incredible how powerful it is. And especially when you consider that they're not even done yet, you know? I mean, you can create legit, robust components. Nobody else is doing that. When you're using Elementor, when you're using the block editor, you can create, what do they call them? In the block editor, I think they're called patterns. And I think a pattern is either synced or it's not synced. I think a synced pattern is about the closest to a component you can get in Gutenberg, where it's synced. So if you add a synced pattern into a bunch of different places and then you edit one, it will edit all of them, right? Elementor, you can create, I don't know what they call them. In Themify, I think they call them templates, which is not the right language. It's not what a template is. It's a component. But again, they don't work like these components work. Actual legit components that you can add your own props to. So yeah, I think, again, I'm not going to go super deep into the weeds on this. This is not an Etch tutorial. I just wanted you to be able to kind of see some of the things I'm talking about and why I like it. Here's the loop manager. These are all the loops I've created. Some of them are JSON loops. Some of them are WordPress query. This is looping through a post type called class of a specific taxonomy called class category. This loop is very powerful because when you create this loop, it will actually run this query, and you know the query is correct if it finds some data over here. If this is blank, like let's say I type machine with 2 E's, I don't have a post type called machine with 2 E's. So it says error loading results. There's no data because there is no such thing as a post type machine E, right? So this tells you, okay, I did this correctly because here's some data. And this also tells you what data you have access to. You can use all this data in Etch. Here's featured image. So if we go back to our loop, and maybe you're wondering, how are we getting this image? Very simple. Machine, that's what we called our loop. Right here, loop, machine text archive, as machine. So then we just do machine.image.alt. The source is the thumbnail. You could use thumbnail or you could use featured image. You got machine.title. And you know you have access to all this information because it's right. I broke it. There we go. It's right here. Machine.featuredimage, machine.date, machine.type, machine.thumbnail. You just saw that's what I was using. You could use featured image or thumbnail. All sorts of stuff. The basic stuff. If you come up here, title. That's just the title of the post, right? Excerpt. Some of the stuff you would expect. Content. Permalink. If you need to create a link to the post, you can use permalink.relative and create a link that takes you to the post, which I think I am doing in here somewhere. Yep, right here. Machine.permalink.relative. It's so easy. All you have to do is know this simple dot syntax. And then if you're wondering, what can I do with it? Well, you just come here and boom, you can use any of this data, any of this stuff. Custom fields are in here somewhere. Meta. This is all custom field data. I have events calendar installed. So there's a whole bunch of events related stuff that's available for everything. Here's machine features. This is a repeater field that I created. Image gallery, that's a repeater field. So you could loop through these. Here's ACF specific. So I have a field called image gallery. I could loop through the machine image if I wanted to, which is actually what I'm doing if I go to this page right here. This is ACF data. I created a repeater field in ACF. And when I edit this machine, I added these images, right? And then I'm looping through that. And I'm looping through these machine features. That's what's showing here and down here, these machine features. I'm just looping through all that stuff. Super easy with this super easy syntax. This is actually fun. You might think I'm weird and crazy, but building a website like this is actually enjoyable now. And of course, when you look at the code, you don't see this weird syntax, with these curly brackets and whatnot. You just see it's just regular HTML. It's the HTML that you built. So we have our grid. It's just a div with the class machine feature grid with some grid CSS over here. And then we got feature card, right? This is all just the code that I put in. It's right here. You can see the HTML right here. Machine grid wrapper. Here's our grid. And we only have one card because it's looping through that. It's just fantastic. It's fun. It's good code output. It makes sense. It's fast. It saves me a ton of time versus if I was to build this whole thing from scratch in VS Code, just building out my own templates all from scratch. This is 1,000 times faster than that. This is much faster than building a site with bricks. If you left Elementor for bricks and you thought, wow, this is so fast and so much better, your journey is not done yet, my friend. Try Etch, and whatever feelings you had about bricks when you left Elementor or when you left the block editor, you're going to have all those feelings again. You're going to go, wow, how is this so much faster than what I've been doing? And I've actually seen other people say this. A lot of people have used bricks for a long time because they follow Kevin Geary and they watch a lot of his content. And so he convinced them to jump on bricks, and they've been using bricks just like Kevin was. And now when they try to go back into bricks, they say it feels like they're working in the Stone Age. They went from loving bricks to now working in bricks is painful. And it's not bricks' fault. It's nothing they did. That's just how much better and faster Etch is. That when you use anything else, you feel like you're a caveman working in the Stone Age. Working with square wheels, man, when you just converted to round wheels. That's what it's like. So that's it. I think that's my review of Etch. Again, I barely scratched the surface of what Etch can actually do. If you really want to know what Etch can do, follow Kevin Geary on YouTube. Follow me on YouTube. There's a ton of content out there. Of course, they're docs. They have docs. It's just docs.etchwp.com. Tons of content out there that will tell you all the crazy things you can do with Etch. I barely scratched the surface. I just want to, hopefully you just believe me when I say how awesome this is. I promise you guys, I'm not just blowing smoke. I was not paid to make this video. Promise you, I really do love Etch. If any part of my story resonated with you at all, if you related to any part of my story, then you owe it to yourself to check out Etch. They do have... Etch does not make you better at typing, by the way. I still suck at typing. You can get a single license for like $99. Just try it out. And they have a refund policy. I think when you request a refund, you have to pay some percentage or something. I don't know what it is. But it's like, bro, just do it. I promise you, when you play around with this, you build a website with it, you're going to come right back here and you're going to jump on one of these plans. I promise. And when you do that, make sure to use my affiliate link. These rainbow glowy mics don't pay for themselves. You know what I'm saying? I need help. Yeah, that's it. If you like this video, if you watch this video and you still have questions about Etch, even though that's not the point of this video, I will do my best to answer them. So drop a comment. If you're like, hey, can Etch do this? How do I do that? Drop that comment. I will do my best to answer that comment. And of course, if you really want to dive into Etch, go follow Kevin Geary. He created the thing. He's obviously the most knowledgeable person, and he does very regular live videos, both on his channel and on the Etch channel, where he does a lot of just building stuff. He doesn't just talk. He doesn't just put out marketing material. He gets on live and he builds crap. So you can see in real time how to actually do things with Etch. So definitely check that out. Very informative. And I think I'm going to quit rambling now. Thanks for watching this video, guys. I hope you liked it. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one.